The wait is over. 4 years after the release of Fallen Kingdom and being filmed during a pandemic, along with being delayed by an entire year, Jurassic World Dominion is finally available to the public. Now, it's no secret that this is without a doubt my most anticipated movie of the year, if not the decade. Therefore, not reviewing this movie would be weird. With all the hype, I wanted to fully process the movie and wait for the extended edition because I'm sure most fans, including myself, would view it as the true version of the movie. Judging from the title of the video, you'll get the idea that I love Dominion. While it's not the Judgment Day or Aliens of the Jurassic franchise in the sense that it rivals the first movie, Jurassic World Dominion is not the cinematic disaster the media makes it out to be. With that in mind, this movie does have some issues that not even the extended edition was able to fix. Now, before I fully go in depth about my thoughts on Dominion, I will provide a spoiler alert in case anyone who hasn't seen the movie wants to watch it with a chance to click away. Also, you are doing yourself a disservice if you go with the theatrical cut. Make sure you watch the extended edition. For the most part, the visual effects for Dominion are really great. However, there are a few scenes where the CGI either felt off or didn't look good, which is quite the shocker when you factor in that this movie had an extra year to work on its visuals. Fortunately, those moments are not too common. Few issues aside, this is the best CGI I've seen in a Jurassic Park movie since Jurassic Park 3. The dinosaurs feel like they actually belong in the scene, which shows how far the Jurassic World trilogy has come with its VFX. Look at the Pyroraptor scene. That was probably some of the most difficult use of CGI in the movie based on having a feathered dinosaur interact with water alone. Just like the CGI, the majority of the practical effects and sets were really good, which was nice to see and gives the movie more authenticity. So huge props to the crew for their hard work on this movie. The only practical effect that doesn't look good would have to be the Microceratus, which is mainly due to its movement and not the actual design. Which is unfortunate, because like I said, the design is really good. I think the goofy shot with the Dilophosaurus opening up its frill is more of an issue of bad camera work because the actual practical effect for the dinosaur looks great. And while not being a one-for-one perfect recreation of the original Dilo made by Stan Winston's team, it's pretty damn close. Just wish they kept the classic colors from the first movie. Leonard the Lystrosaurus is another great practical effect along with the Giganotosaurus. The Giga scene where it attacks the main cast was a near perfect blend of practical and visual effects, a route that will most likely benefit movies in the future. Like I said before, the extended cut fixes the movie and strengthens the weaker than desired connective tissue from the theatrical cut. I mean, it's amazing how much adding only 14 minutes of footage allows this movie to flow much better. I fully admit that I underestimated the importance of the Cretaceous segment. Then again, I didn't hear about the plot points involving the locusts until after I made my review for the teaser, and I assumed that the movie would have done more to establish the rivalry between T-Rex and Giganotosaurus. Beforehand, I thought it was just a cool compilation of dinosaurs living in the past. As a dinosaur fan, the paleo inaccuracies can be annoying. But looking at it purely as a movie, it's a near perfect opening that rivals the opening to Fallen Kingdom. With this opening, we are introduced to the locusts, which is one of the biggest issues people have with Dominion. Personally, I love the plot involving the locusts because it takes the threat of genetic power and turns it into a global scale threat. While the setup wasn't blatantly obvious, Ian Malcolm in one of the few great scenes in Fallen Kingdom does warn people about how the misuse of genetic power would spread around the globe and not stop at the de-extinction of the dinosaurs. Along with introducing the locusts, the new opening of the movie provides a nice parallel for the final fight with Rexy and the Giga. The drive-in sequence is great as well because it shows Rexy as a terrifying force of nature while still being portrayed as an actual animal. Not only is the drive-in sequence a great way to show off the new and improved Rexy design, it also makes the Now This segment of the movie feel earned. If you want to hear my full thoughts on the first 5 minutes of Dominion, you can check out my review for that in the description below.
You coming or what?
Out of the two stories Dominion gives us, I prefer the original trio story more because it falls more in line with the themes about ethical use of science that Michael Crichton presented. Now don't get me wrong, Owen and Claire's story is really fun as well and might have one of my favorite segments in the movie involving Malta, and the chasing that has been pretty much marketed everywhere does in fact live up to the hype. The black market is why I consider Malta to be one of my favorite parts of the movie because it shows that the Jurassic Park movies have the potential to be more than just dinosaurs on an island. Not only that, it's great world building to show the effects of dinosaurs and genetic power becoming open source. Basically, you get a science fiction thriller with Alan, Ellie, and Ian, and with Owen and Claire you get an action movie. It's actually quite fitting when you think about how the first Jurassic Park is a cautionary tale about the dangers of misusing science, while Jurassic World is a fun popcorn flick that fully embraces what it is. One major missed opportunity for the movie is that I wish Dominion focused more on the pharmaceutical angle of Biosyn, which would have been more in line with the novel. You could have had Macy being kidnapped due to Dodson wanting to use her as a test subject for pharmaceutical products because given that she's a clone, a skilled lawyer could find a gray area and use a loophole to get the company out of legal trouble. I would also add that they could also want to have Beta for the same reason because in the Lost World novel, Dodson suggests using dinosaurs as test subjects and even refers to them as giant lizards, which are just snakes with legs, therefore there wouldn't be much scrutiny from people. Then again, the Jurassic Park movies portray people's views of dinosaurs as a mixed bag. You could still have Biosyn breed dinosaurs and capture the escaped ones to test on them as well. It would have delved more into the ethical treatment of dinosaurs and better complement the original trio story about the dangers of misusing genetic power. While I really like the third act, I wish we could have gotten more screen time of both the original trio and the new characters working together because at times it felt rushed. I also think it was a missed opportunity to not have characters like Ian and Claire talk because we all know that Ian would probably have some strong words about the Jurassic World incident, especially if you knew about Claire's involvement. I did love the character interactions between the two sets of characters and it was a lot of fun. It was great to see Alan helping out Owen and Macy with Beta as Ellie and Claire got to work together as well. One major missed opportunity the movie has is that Alan should have interacted with a Pyroraptor. Given his fascination with raptors, seeing a fully feathered dromaeosaur would have allowed the speculations about dinosaurs be more like birds come full circle. I know that the over-reliance on callbacks and references of the first Jurassic Park was a major issue with Fallen Kingdom, but ironically, one of the best shots in Dominion would have to be the reference of the Jurassic Park logo. On paper, this could have been the worst case of member berries in the entire franchise, but believe it or not, Colin Trevorrow excelled and made it work.
You did. You crazy son of a bitch, you did.
It felt weird that the last dinosaur we see in the movie is the Sinoceratops. Don't get me wrong, it's actually a beautiful shot. I just think it would have been more fitting if we had a dinosaur from the first movie appear in the last shot of the movie. Perhaps the Brachiosaurus. It would have actually been a perfect bookend since it was the first dinosaur we saw in the franchise.
See? Not so bad.
While the extended edition is a major improvement over the theatrical cut, it unfortunately doesn't fix every issue the movie has. Considering that Fallen Kingdom treated Macy freeing the dinosaurs as this huge deal along with Ian's warning at the end of the movie, it was odd that Dominion never had Macy reflect on her actions. I know that people were hoping that the movie would have been more focused on how humans would have to learn to coexist with dinosaurs and how that might affect the ecosystem. But on the other hand, having a movie just on that might have proven to be easier said than done, and it would have been better shown in the form of shorts or shows.
And we've yet to find a way for these animals to live safely among us.
It also seems like the writers had no idea what they wanted to do with the Mosasaurus after Jurassic World because it's just kinda out there and it's not really talked about in the film universe. And I'm pretty sure that the food chain would be completely out of whack. I mean, there you go. You have a movie right there, solely focused on the Mosasaurus. Unfortunately, one issue that carries on from Fallen Kingdom is that the tension feels non-existent, which is the result in that the only characters that die are the ones who deserve it. It's almost as if the filmmakers and Universal should have just ignored all the hissy fits over Zara's death, which are even more absurd when you factor in that Katie McGrath herself agreed to do her own stunts, meaning that she was at least on board with the fate of her character.
We're about to die in like a very cool way.
Fortunately, while the tension is pretty much not there, at least Dominion doesn't insert stupid quips that ruin any sense of danger and even any bit of dialogue uses within character.
Let's all try and stay positive.
It also helps that the movie feels more grounded and there's nothing over the top or bombastic that forces you to turn off your brain. The next two critiques might feel nitpicky, but while the soundtrack was nice, especially the Malta stuff, it also felt underwhelming that didn't even play the main theme from the first Jurassic Park movie. Even with all the issues the previous movie had, at least Fallen Kingdom actually got that part right. It would have been the icing on the cake to end the end of the Jurassic saga. If the Amber Gold logo was promoted since the first official poster, I wonder why they didn't even use it in the movie. After being disappointed that Dominion wasn't going to go with the classic red and yellow that was teased, I finally got around to loving the Amber Gold, which makes it even more disappointing it wasn't even used in the movie. You can't just slap an awesome logo on every bit of merchandise and trailer to promote your movie and not even use it in the actual feature presentation.
We made a terrible mistake.
While Dominion has issues that are forgivable, One major issue the extended edition is unable to fix is the handling of Henry Wu. While I like the idea of where they took his character, we don't get an explanation to why he has a change of heart. The Henry Wu we see in Dominion is different from the one we saw in Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom, and there is no setup whatsoever to this drastic change. Oh, and I'll go ahead and say it. The scene of him in Camp Cretaceous doesn't count because he still ends up creating the Endoraptor after his little talk with Brooklyn. You could have had one scene where he's being praised for his scientific breakthrough with the locust. Another scene later, he sees the news of the damage done to the crop fields and how it's hurting people, having him come to the realization that he took things too far. Boom! There's your justification for a drastic change of character. I will add that it's somewhat in line with the same issues with Claire's redemption arc in that they're both half-assed. Think about it. Neither one of them really suffer major repercussions for their actions or negligence, and the most Henry suffers is that he's stripped of his credentials in Fallen Kingdom, and even then, you have to catch the news headline at the right moment. At least with Claire, we get a scene where she has a change of heart. The more I think about it, I'm surprised he wasn't even put on trial or questioned for what he did. After all, Henry Wu creating an ecological disaster dwarfs Claire's criminal negligence in Jurassic World, and I really don't like how that's treated as an afterthought. Then again, at least they fully acknowledge what Wu has done, and unlike Claire, they don't sweep the mistakes under the rug in order to make you like him. The thing with redemption arcs is that in order for them to work, the mistakes that characters make have to be acknowledged and there has to be repercussions for what they did. They actually have to go through trials and earn respect from the other characters. Unfortunately, the Jurassic World trilogy drops the ball on both of these redemption arcs. If they weren't going to go all out and provide a proper redemption arc, then they should have just given Henry Wu a death similar to his novel counterpart. At least then the tension in the movie might have been improved. Now, with all of the issues that Dominion has, they're somewhat easy to put aside and you're still able to enjoy the movie. However, there is one major flaw that is very difficult to process, and I am very surprised that a lot of people aren't talking about this. That one major issue would have to be the inclusion of Charlotte Lockwood. While there's nothing wrong with trying to flesh out characters to make them stand out more, Macy was already the one new character to come out of Fallen Kingdom who was actually likable, and her being a clone was the first introduction we got to people misusing genetic power beyond cloning dinosaurs. The problem with Charlotte Lockwood is that she retcons Macy's backstory, which then overcomplicates the movie. Listen, I understand and respect the intent of trying to show a more ethical side to using genetic power, but in this case, it's poorly executed. If you wanted to show a more ethical side to genetics, instead of Charlotte, have a geneticist at Biosin who is actually trying to do something good with genetic power, and maybe even convince Henry Wu to have a change of heart. One other issue involving Charlotte. Having her give the final speech at the end of the movie was completely unearned. If anyone should have had a speech at the end, it should have gone to Ian Malcolm. Considering that he's the character Michael Crichton used to express the themes of the franchise, having him give one last speech would have been perfect.
We get to reacquaint with old friends and get to know new friends.
New side characters are interesting and provided genuine entertainment along with contributing to the plot. Ryan Delacour gets a proper introduction in the extended cut, and I admit that I really enjoyed his death scene. Santos is a fun villain, and I honestly wanted to see more of her. Kayla Watts might not be the Han Solo type she was hyped up to be in the sense of quality, which, to be fair, that's a pretty high bar to meet. She was still interesting and I can absolutely relate to her love of redheads on a personal level. Love how Ramsey Cole was the whistleblower about the Locust and it allows us to understand why Ian would be working for Biosin in the first place. While still being the two worst characters in the franchise, Franklin and Zio were surprisingly not awful and didn't make me want to bang my head against the bluntest object I could find, which probably helps that their screen time was very limited along with better direction. I would consider Barry to be my favorite side character in Dominion. Honestly, I was worried about how he would be utilized, and this movie did not disappoint. It was great to see him and Owen team up again and utilize their raptor training from Jurassic World. Unfortunately, Lowry does not appear in Dominion. Seriously, they can somehow bring back the two worst characters in the entire franchise, but not Lowry?
You gotta be kidding me.
What makes his exclusion from the movie frustrating, along with disappointing, is that he was confirmed to be in the movie. And along with the original trio, he was the only other character I was genuinely excited to see in Dominion. Well, before Dodson was confirmed to come back. The disappointment in his inability to return is that they delayed Dominion, meaning that they had time to find a way to put him in the movie. It's the equivalent of being promised ice cream, but then never getting it, even with the extra time to buy some. Lowry deserved to have a scene where he contributed to the plot without being the butt of an unfunny or mean-spirited joke at his expense. Which is what makes the scene outside the CIA building frustrating when you factor in that was supposed to be his moment to shine. Lowry was really the only new character introduced in the trilogy that I would consider to be great. Well, character who's still alive, because Simon Masrani was pretty great as well. With that in mind, I thought it was cool that he and Vivian got to have a little Easter egg and were shown to be working with the CIA to help out with dinosaur-related issues.
Hi.
You're Louis Dodson?
I am. How do you do?
One of the things I didn't think was possible was the return of Louis Dodson.
Dodson! Dodson! We've got Dodson here!
I was surprised that they went with a recast instead of making a new character, which, in this case, if you want Dodson back, you have to recast because the original actor was found guilty of some horrendous crimes. With the return of Dodson, it's safe to say that he quickly claimed the #1 spot as the best villain in the franchise, which really isn't saying much. What makes him so dangerous is that despite trying to keep his hands from getting too dirty, he's shown to be a threat with unleashing the locusts, causing a shortage in crops and refusing to take responsibility for what he has done, and only makes the situation worse after trying to cover up the evidence. While he might not have been the one-for-one counterpart from the novel, Dodson still feels within character. His book counterpart unleashed a rabies virus in Chile to test out a vaccine, so with that in mind, having him unleash genetically altered locusts that only eat the crops of competitors still seems within character for him. I love how he puts up a facade of being a genuinely nice person who's trying to make the world a better place. It reminds me of all the times corporations try to virtue signal for the most current thing in the hopes of getting people to consume their products. While Dominion's on-screen death count was disappointingly low, Dodson's was by far the best one. Considering how he tried to get Alan, Ellie, and Macy killed in the Amber Mines along with his connections to the Barbasol can Nedry used to take down Jurassic Park, death by Dilophosaurus is a fitting way to go out.
What's your story?
Owen and Claire at their best in Dominion. Which, let's be honest, considering how neither one of them are necessarily protagonist material on their own, that's a pretty low bar to beat, and it helps that the original trio are back, so the full weight of the movie isn't on their shoulders. On the bright side, there's no romantic tension between the two of them. Yes, that's right. No more stupid breakups over the damn van and needlessly rehashing the same thing from the first Jurassic World movie.
Oh, thank God.
One scene I really loved in the extended cut was Owen giving up the Parasaurolophus. Normally we would see him kick ass and take names, but to see him forfeit a dinosaur that he took the time and effort to go after could be interpreted as him taking a loss, and should shut down any accusations of him being a Gary Stu. It also shows Owen's character development in being a family man and provides better connective tissue in how he knows what Rain looks like along with their fight in Malta having more weight. For the most part, Claire's arc comes in full circle as she finally understands how it feels to have kids and seeing a more motherly side to her that you would think was impossible when she first appeared in Jurassic World. For all the questionable creative choices made with her character, Macy was still confident and I liked her bond with Beta.
I have to warn you, everyone's so excited to have you. You guys are absolute legends around here.
When it comes to the utilization of the legacy characters, I will say that for the most part, they're surprisingly handled very well. Seeing Alan Grant back in a Jurassic Park movie never fails to put a smile on my face. Ellie Sattler gets to take more charge and help kick off the original trio side of the movie with the extended edition actually explaining how she's able to acquire locust DNA. Ian is still the logical voice of reason while calling out people for misusing genetic power, and his argument with Dodson was one of his best scenes in the movie. One issue the extended edition improves is that Alan Grant gets more screen time. Sure, he doesn't get a badass moment like the other characters, and his use of paleontological knowledge is weaker than desired. He does get to contribute more to the movie instead of feeling sidelined along with little moments here and there, showing that he's maintained the character development he gained from his first two movies. Especially when it comes to dealing with kids. Honestly, I'm just happy they didn't do what modern Hollywood has a bad habit of doing in character assassinating more beloved legacy characters. Also, given how Alan was still somewhat overshadowed by the other characters, he deserved to get back with Ellie. I don't care if it was fan service, after all the shit he's been through, Alan deserves some happiness. Even with the Locust plot, we still get plenty of dinosaur action that should satisfy movie viewers. The reason the addition of biologically engineered locusts don't bother me is that Jurassic Park was never really about the dinosaurs. Jurassic Park is first and foremost a cautionary tale about the dangers of misusing science, and dinosaurs were the brilliant example Michael Crichton used to illustrate the point. So in a way, while Jurassic Park is a dinosaur movie, it's also not about the dinosaurs as well.
What?
Yeah, I know, it's confusing. Not only do we bring back dinosaurs from the previous movies, we are also introduced a brand new species along with other prehistoric creatures making their debut in the franchise. One issue I have with the Jurassic World trilogy is that for the most part, the designs haven't been that good, and to give credit where it's due, Dominion has improved on that critique, especially with Rexy's new and improved design where she actually looks and feels like her classic Jurassic self from 1993. Again, I don't think I can overstate how much I appreciate the fact that Colin Trevorrow took the time to listen to fans on that critique along with the VFX team for fixing it. I was honestly surprised that they even took the time to redesign the Parasaurol office and even updated the Stegosaurus tail. Another thing that should be pointed out is that I appreciate how the dinosaurs are portrayed as actual animals. That was one major critique I have for Fallen Kingdom, and my confidence in Colin improved after Battle at Big Rock premiered, which turned out to be correct. The Lystrosaurus was another welcome addition, and while its new scene in the fight ring didn't do anything to improve the overall plot, it was still cool seeing how much of a threat it can be and continue to debunk the whole friendly herbivore trope. I really appreciated the detail of the Oviraptor moving around like a chicken with its head cut off to better connect how dinosaurs were more like birds than reptiles. The Atrociraptors were pretty much the not Velociraptors of the movie, and I wish they just made them Utahraptors or bring back the original Velociraptors from the previous movies. With that in mind, I appreciated seeing the fallout of Owen's research for training raptors becoming more accessible to other people.
You can't engineer loyalty. You have to nurture it.
Allosaurus and Carnotaurus were great in their limited screen time, and I appreciated that for once, the Carno wasn't a punching bag. I also love the color scheme used, and it reminds me of the Demon Carno toy from the Jurassic Park toy line. Putting the Dimetrodon in the tight spaces of the amber mines was really cool and allowed them to provide a sense of danger for the characters. Jurassic World Dominion has some of the best designs in the trilogy, and while they could have fumbled the ball on feathered dinosaurs, they managed to succeed. Which I guess you could say huge props to Steve Brusati for being the paleontological supervisor. Despite the questionable eye placement, the Pyroraptor was one of the best additions to the whole franchise, and I'm very happy they gave it red feathers along with proper wings. Giving it the ability to swim was really cool, which should help provide some distinction in comparison to the other members of the Dromaeosaur family in the franchise. My only main complaint is that it didn't get more screen time and the trailer spoiled its one moment. Boros Intrepidus is my other favorite new addition, and with the exception of its height, it's the best design for a new species, and I really want a toy based off the new movie design. Therizinosaurus was another cool addition, and its introduction is one of the best directed scenes in the movie as it shows how territorial herbivores can be while fully taking advantage of how bizarre the animal is. The biggest surprise would have to be that the Giganotosaurus, aka the dinosaur Colin Trevorrow compared to the Joker, behaves in a genuinely animalistic manner. Its design is a bit of a mixed bag, but like I said in my review for the teaser, it could have been a lot worse. I wish the Giga racked up more kills and put an emphasis on how much of a threat it is. The movie keeps telling us that it's a threat, and we only believe it because of the Cretaceous segment, making it a case where show don't tell would have benefited Dominion. I know that it probably been considered annoying for it being a trope, but you could have had to kill a Dreadnoughtus along with some Biosyn employees to make it clear that the Giga is not to be crossed. 29 years later, Dilophosaurus is officially back in a movie, and hearing its hoots had me grinning ear to ear. The best part is that we not only get one, but two scenes. What?! I love how the movie acknowledges its venom sacs when Owen headlocks it to save Claire from one of them because it shows his knowledge on dealing with dinosaurs. My favorite part in the Dilo second scene is that we get to see how slow and painful Dodson's death is from the paralysis caused by its venom. While Blue's role is limited, the movie does a good job at utilizing her screen time, and having her hurt Owen should put down any accusations that she's a friendly raptor. I also enjoyed seeing more of her in the extended cut, especially when she fights off the poachers. Love how they took the time to explain how her ability to reproduce asexually is a result of monitor lizard DNA, which has been hinted at in various forms of Jurassic media. Beta is a nice addition. I love how she starts to form a bond with Macy after they were both kidnapped. Owen and Blue's final scene was a nice way to close up the human-raptor bond, which is one of the best executed elements from the Jurassic World trilogy. Thanks to the extended cut, Rexy felt better utilized. Speaking of better utilization, the reference to the logo actually works is because unlike her shots in Fallen Kingdom, she was behaving in a naturalistic manner and wasn't just posing for the camera. My only complaint is that I wish she had been able to take on the Giga by herself. I think she deserved to at least have one major win. And I feel like it was a case of Colin Trevorrow trying to one-up the final fight from the first Jurassic World movie. And while it's definitely not the worst fight in the franchise, it could have been a lot better. One of my favorite scenes is when Rexy gets to interact with the two Sornorexes, which have been confirmed to be the Buck and Doe from the Lost World. So overall, I was pretty satisfied with their utilization in the movie.
It's been a great privilege to be a custodian of something like this.
Considering all the trouble the movie had in dealing with numerous amount of red tape from the protocols resulting from the pandemic, I really appreciate all the hard work that was put into the movie by the cast and crew. You can tell that people actually wanted to be there and had genuine effort. While there are some cheesy moments here and there, the acting for the most part was pretty good. Despite my saltiness toward the scene outside the CIA building, I will say that when he's given the right content, Joseph Smith is a solid actor. I just suggest not treating him as comic relief. It was exciting to see Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum back together in the Jurassic Park movie, and it's something I won't ever take for granted. While Owen and Claire aren't necessarily the best written characters, Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard have really great chemistry, and you can tell that they actually wanted to be there. And I'm really going to miss seeing them together on a Jurassic Park project. Huge shout out to the crew because despite filming during a pandemic, they did their best to go practical as much as possible, and it should help the movie age better in the long run. Honestly, I could go on and on about the cast and crew, but yeah, thank you for all the hard work.
Jurassic World Dominion is the culmination of the franchise.
Despite not surpassing the first Jurassic Park in the sense of quality, Jurassic World Dominion is at worst an ambitious movie filled with missed opportunities that'll have you go what could have been along with the return of beloved characters. I respect Colin Trevorrow for trying to make his vision for a genuine movie with some ideas, and while there are cases here and there where he might have bitten off more than he could chew, he handled himself really well. You could even say that the movie should have been split in two, and I would absolutely agree with you. But regardless of what I think, what's done is done. One of the things that surprised me the most about the movie is that it's surprisingly not woke, which is a nice change of pace from Fallen Kingdom's references to recent political figures that were really on the nose and don't age well. What I also mean by that is that none of the male characters are degraded to prop up the female characters and vice versa. Ian and Owen get to have badass moments, Ellie and Claire get to shine, Alan Grant is still treated with dignity, Kayla and Ramsey contribute to the plot. None of the legacy characters have to be cut down to prop up the new additions. While maintaining the philosophical elements from the first Jurassic Park, never once did I feel like Dominion talked down to its audience and try to lecture you. Honestly, it was nice to see a movie that was actually smart and didn't force me to turn off my brain to enjoy. So while Jurassic World Dominion might not have been the epic conclusion that the trailers hyped it up to be, I consider it to be the satisfying conclusion of the Jurassic Era, and if this is the last movie we get, then I'm fine with that because as a Jurassic Park fan, I would rather enjoy genuine quality over having the franchise being milked to death. Well, those are my overall thoughts and opinions on Jurassic World Dominion. Thanks for watching. Oh, and one other thing. Where were the cave women?